Welcome back, my friends. And thank you so much for returning if you are returning. And if you're new here, thank you for being here. So today's video is going to be different. It's going to be a lot more personal because I am quite literally living into a very eclipsy time in my life. So I thought it would be actually very helpful and informative to share. And honestly, I think when we share who we are in at any time in any situation, it's how we connect to each other, how we just how we make a big difference. So, okay. And some of you may be aware of this, some of you may not. Just a matter of days ago, I'm filming this, today is August 24th. It's about 6 p.m. Pacific time. And on August 20th, last week, I lost somebody very, very near, dear, and bonded to my heart forever, Sally. And so I thought I would share a lot of things around eclipses in general. Eclipses are absolutely more intensified new moon and full moons. They bring about big changes. They are seeding or catalyzing um, what truly feels like fated moments, fated um, experiences. So before I speak about Sally's transition as well as mine, because it's a very, very significant time in my life now that Sally is no longer here. I thought I would start by going way back in time because what I want to share um, is Sally. Sally was somebody that I met back in 2022. I met her um, through a family member, and it was soon after Dave had passed on. So I was in the early stages of grief, the grief that I had never experienced anything like that before. And prior to that, for the last 9 years of Dave's life, I'm kind of traveling around. So stay with me on this. I had been not entirely, but a lot caregiving David. He had a very near-death experience in 2013. In a coma in multiple hospitals over 4 months. And when he was released from the hospital, he no longer had a home to go to. I had to move him out of his home because he wasn't even expected actually to live in, like I said, 4 months in hospitals. When he came home, he had to learn how to live again, how to walk, how to talk, how to do everything. And so he came home to live with me. And that was what I thought might be a few months, was the last 9 years of his life. He passed in 2022. And prior to that, I'm kind of going backwards in time. Let's call it retrograde. We're going backwards. Prior to that, from about 2012 through 2019, I somehow or another, I mean, I know how, became a nanny, a caregiver to children from infants, newborns, through like toddlers. Um, I love children. I love babies. I did not think that would be my full-time work at that stage of my life. And then prior to that, I did have, I had a career, so to speak, in a family business, but I became a mother in 1994. And so I just recently, very recently, like in the last day, decided to, believe it or not, I did not know this, decided to look up when the eclipses were happening around the time that I actually became pregnant. And it shouldn't be a surprise, but it was actually a big surprise that June 4th, 1993, I had to write this down. We had a total lunar eclipse in Sagittarius, a full moon lunar eclipse in Sagittarius. And I know that I got pregnant right around that time, early June, because I had my first daughter in early May. Um, and so I got pregnant during an eclipse. And to even make it even more, um, we could say karmic or more destined, is that lunar eclipse in Sagittarius. Um, Lena's father, my daughter's father, David, who I was just speaking about, he was born on a Sagittarius full moon. It was not an eclipse, but it was a Sagittarius full moon, and that's the eclipse that we conceived our first child under. And then fast forward, about 13 months later, which is when we conceived our second daughter, and that was around mid-April, mid to late April, because she was born January 23rd of 96. So April 15th, 95, there was a lunar eclipse in Libra, which is where that daughter of mine, where she has her north node in Libra. And there was on April 29th, 95, it was a solar eclipse in Taurus, which is where my north node is. So the nodes of the moon, which is where eclipses happen, are very, very aligned with fate, karma, destiny, however you want to put it. So, all that to say, both of my daughters were conceived during eclipses. Did not know that until just recently. So, I'm really here to speak about the nature of eclipses. Again, they are amplified energy, amplified new moon and full moon energy, where big changes, turning points, breakthroughs, we can call fated seeded moments. All right, so I thought I would also bring into the story. I decided to go back to some key, huge turning points in my life. Another one was around 41 years old, which is when I was beginning my Uranus opposition. That is, in astrology speak, what we would call the midlife crisis point. And I certainly went through one. August 28th, 2007, there was a full moon Pisces lunar eclipse. So we know that was about 18 plus years ago, pretty much exactly 19 years ago. And we're having this full moon Pisces lunar eclipse coming up in a few days on the 27th Pacific time, 28th Eastern time. So back during that eclipse, which was a full nodal cycle, so I was also, the nodes. This lunar eclipse that we're about to happen in a few days, like I said, was the same lunar eclipse in Pisces back 19 years ago. And during that time, on August 28th, 2007, was where our marriage, mine and David's, began to really, really crumble, break, dissolve. And it was a very, very, very difficult time. So that was August 28th. On September 11th, 2007, we had a Virgo solar eclipse. And that day is etched into my brain forever, because on that day, that was a huge turning point. We got into a horrible, horrible fight. The girls were at school. It was during the day. I ran out of the house with no shoes and just car keys and just drove. And I will never forget that day. And that was literally on a Virgo solar eclipse. And so that, again, was a very big turning point in my life, huge turning point. Everything began to dissolve. First and foremost, my marriage, our family. And then by April, you can see about 6 months later, March into April, my parents had to close the doors of their 25 plus year business. They lost everything. And as a family, we all financially lost and suffered. It was a family business. So I won't go too deep into that, but that again was the beginning of my life looking very, very different from that moment, that, summer Pisces Virgo eclipse portal of 2007. Here I am 19 years later at another huge turning point in the portal of an eclipse. And it's this eclipse coming up is a Pisces lunar eclipse. This is probably a good time to let you know I have a tremendous amount of Pisces in my chart. I have Sun, Moon, Mercury, Mars, Saturn, um, Juno, um, Pallas Athene, Black Moon Lilith. I mean, I have 9 planets, the Sun, the Moon, and asteroids in Pisces in my 12th house. The 12th house is the last house of all the houses. It's a house that's considered a hidden house. It is a house that the themes are things that are hidden behind the scenes, in the shadows, in the subconscious. Hospitals and prisons fall into the 12th house topics. The house of your own undoing falls into the 12th house. Pisces is the last and final sign of the zodiac, considered the old man, considered to be the death portal, death endings, completions. Pisces also rules transcendence. It's very creative. It's like the ocean itself. Pisces is almost like it's as my teacher says, like mist. It's very porous. It's very much about unconditional love, empathy, compassion, self sacrifice, victimhood, escapism, delusion. So I'm bringing all that into the story because it is so important and such an important part of my life's journey, my soul's mission, and the way that that has played out. I also want to say all of that Pisces that I have in my chart in the 12th house is exactly my Saturn and my Mars. The 2 malefic planets are exactly conjunct 17 degrees in Pisces, opposing Pluto and Uranus in Virgo. This is in my natal chart. Pluto at 18 degrees, Uranus at 17 degrees. They are conjunct in an exact opposition to all of my Pisces, but exactly that Mars and Saturn. That is not an easy transit to live through. I'm laughing because if I don't laugh, I'll cry. But it really does speak to basically saying yes to self-sacrifice. It started as a mother, which was so easy, so natural, so joyful, so exalted. That exchange of my solo individual life, which I loved, by the way. At 28, when I became a mother, I fell into the bliss, not the abyss, a bliss. I was profoundly taken over by the exalted level of unconditional love, joy, protection, every emotion of becoming a mother. It was otherworldly for me. And then we had our second daughter, and it just was so expansive. Those early years of being a mommy were the most beautiful, joyful, pleasurable, golden years of my life. I loved it. And to basically just, I won't say it was easy at the beginning to let go of the identity of who I was from 0 to 28, but soon enough it was just where I wanted to be. And truthfully, I let go of myself so much that by the time 2007 came around, I had really lost my way, and I had been deluding myself in a lot of ways, especially in my marriage. And as all things do and will, we will get we will get pulled to the mat to wake up to what we need to wake up to. Eclipses, again, are very effective, very precise at moving us in a direction that feels like sometimes we were, in my case, I was abducted by aliens, and that was 2007. By 2012, I'm now nannying other children because lost the family business, lost my income, tried to hold on in all these ways of what I had built with that business. By 2012, out of survival, I went to childcare. It became my full time gig. Profoundly grateful for all the 17 children over those years um, that I was entrusted into their lives, into their families, into their homes to care for, look after, play with, and be, again, very joyful. But it was also difficult. It's very difficult to be a part of, other people's children's lives and also be tied into your work life. Um, and there were a lot of themes for me around value, feeling devalued. What is my value? Where do I add value? How am I being valued? um, North Node in Taurus, big theme in my second house. Um, so again, I went through 7 years of now caring for other people's children, caregiving. Started as a mother. David, who started to have health issues in 1999, way back, and for the most part, he was completely, fine, vital. But as time went on, prior to 2007, 2008, I was also even stepping more into kind of more caregiver than partner. And so there, it was getting very hazy, it was, things were changing. And I was still very much sort of deluding myself as to, what that meant and my devotion to him, to our family, to my life as I knew it. Again, in 2007, when those eclipses hit, it was game on and game over. Everything changed. By 2013, David and I were now a couple years no longer together. I was in a new relationship. He had this near death experience. As I said earlier, he came home to live with me. Then I was caring for him off and on, and very much on the last, from 2020 to 2022, before he passed. And then Dave passed. And by 2022, April 30th, 2022, there was a solar eclipse in Taurus, which is right around when I met Sally. And so very significant. You can see how eclipses have been extremely significant in my life. And I would venture to say, if we were to go back and look at your life and look at the timing of eclipses and what happened, there is zero doubt in my mind that they also signified big turning points, big changes, um, what might feel like a fated uh, moment or a fated event happening in your life. So 2022, I meet Sally. It's very low key. She is needing just a little assistance driving her around, spending time with her. She's having some short term memory issues. We start spending time together. I'm, spending maybe 2 days a week with her, if that. But we start to immediately bond, connect. She's sharing and downloading all of her beautiful life stories. I mean, what a powerhouse. What an incredible woman. Um, and within about, I don't know, 6, 7 months from us meeting, she ends up moving into assisted living because she was just needing a more safe place to live. Her house had all stairs and it was becoming a little bit untenable for her to stay there. She was totally independent. We continued this very beautiful friendship that had started in the springtime. We would have lunch, we would go shopping, we would share stories, laugh, um, all of it. Now, fast forward to late April 2023, we have a solar eclipse um, in Aries. I'm sorry, it was So in around April 25th or so of 2023, there was a solar eclipse um, in Taurus. I'm sorry. And then that was the day that I left to go with my parents and my nephew. We went to Europe. We were basically, I was going with my parents. My mother is from England. It was an opportunity for her to go see her family. She has quite a bit of family, for all of us to go see our family. At that point, my parents, uh, were good, but it was going to be safer for us to travel with them. And we were there during this eclipse portal. May 5th was the Scorpio eclipse, 2023, May 5th, Scorpio lunar eclipse, full moon. Literally, they're celebrating um, uh, King Charles becoming king. That was on an eclipse. That's a whole other story with the royal family being born on eclipses. Okay, so we were traveling back from England back to LAX on May 9th. When we landed in LAX and I turned my phone back on, a text message came through from Sally's daughter letting me know that Sally had taken a bad fall on May 7th. So 2 days after that lunar eclipse in Scorpio. And she had broken her hip. She was in the hospital. So when I got back to California from my travels, of course, I went to see Sally. She was in a rehab hospital for almost a month. And by mid May, I was spending more time with her and having conversations with her daughter about, just really being there with her as to mitigate loneliness, a lot of confusion. This fall, she had to have surgery. She was under anesthesia. And it basically sort of unearthed what was below the surface with her short term memory. And it just unearthed some more advanced dementia, if you will. And so from that point on, from May 2023, I started being with Sally where she lives in assisted living, a very beautiful assisted living, until last Thursday, August 20th, when she transitioned and passed away. And as we know, we're in an eclipse portal. So when I started with Sally, of course, that was an eclipse when she fell, and what that prompted, big change. What was a beautiful friendship prior to that, really for a year prior to that when we met, I had no idea that I would basically, again, there would be what I call an invitation to show up in a way that is extremely sacred. And when I say sacred, it's, to be entrusted to be with somebody when they are at the end of their life. And we don't know how long that will be. When I say end of life, that could be 3 months, or in this case, 3 years and 3 months. But Sally, just continued to decline over those 3 years. And slowly at first, but by September of 2024, which was another eclipse portal, we had an eclipse in Virgo and Pisces in September of 2024, basically where we are now, that's when it started. And when this Virgo Pisces eclipse season, this last, we're closing it out this week with this Pisces lunar eclipse, when it started in September 2024, Sally had made a pretty decent recovery. But in September of 2024, right in the midpoint of this eclipse, she got COVID for the first time. And honestly, I didn't think she was going to survive it. It was very hard for her. She was in the hospital, but she did survive it. But from that point on until now, the decline was much steeper. And she, around that time, started to become pretty nonverbal. And so I would say the last, 18 months of her life were almost entirely nonverbal. And the time that I spent with Sally was so special, so significant. Um, it was difficult. It was sad. You know, she lived in an assisted living with so many beautiful people in those contained in those walls, from all of the elderly residents, our elders who had varying degrees of, you know, dementia or ill health, or, you know, just aging out, and just how precious and beautiful our elders are that are, you know, somewhat overlooked, very overlooked or discarded. And also the staff and all the people who work, continue to work and care for these residents and these very vulnerable people, are some of the most angelic, beautiful, heart centered, heart forward people I have ever known. And as I said, my time with Sally and my time in this beautiful place with the people, I became very bonded with many of the people that worked there. It was interesting because it was where I went to work and to be with Sally, but it wasn't my place of work. Um, but there's a lot of layers to what has just significantly changed in my life. It's very complex. I had made a very conscious decision when the time came that Sally would transition and make her grand departure out of her body and back home, that I would also make a huge transition. And this would be my final caregiving, honorable caregiving mission. And that's really what all of this has felt like. I haven't even mentioned someone prior to meeting Sally that also was an invitation that sort of just showed up for me through one of my dearest, closest, best friends, someone very, very close to her, um, who was unknowingly, or I should say unexpectedly, um, diagnosed with a disease. And I was also there to help, to work, also to be by that person's side with his other very beloved people when that person transitioned. And that was late 2021. Dave died in March of 2022, and here we are in 2026, and Sally has just passed on. So I'm sharing all of this because it is the epitome of what eclipses can bring, and it's different for all of us. I'm sharing my very personal, you know, synopsis of the last 32 years, like I said, becoming a mother, a caregiver to so many, to children, to my former husband, who I loved, always loved, will forever love, uh, although we didn't stay partnered romantically. Um, and it has been honestly the highest honor of my entire life um, to say yes to these invitations, to these opportunities, sacred opportunities that have shown up in my life. And saying yes was something that maybe my mind or my lifestyle didn't want to say yes to, but my heart and my soul knew to go there, to do that. And I trusted it. And now here I am. I just turned 60 years old 6 months ago. I have always been a very creative person. I went to design school. I've always done art and painted, not as much as I would like to, but it is one of my great loves. Astrology, obviously, one of my great loves. The fact that I have now been offering this in service to others feels like a dream come true. I've said it many times and I'll keep saying it. I also um, became a certified meditation teacher guide under Lauren Roche and Camille Maureen. Lauren, rest in peace. He passed on just a couple of months ago. I have all these beautiful, beautiful, benevolent beings, my beloveds, and people that I was so, um, again, um, I am so grateful that I have had the experiences that I've had. I feel so connected to all of them. They are right here with us, all of our ancestors, all of our seen and unseen beloveds are here for us. And so I'm going to close out by just saying I am moving into a very, very different era of the final years of my life. I hope I have 30 plus good years because there's so much I want to do and see and experience and share and collaborate and create and serve in the ways that everything up until this point has brought me back home to my second childhood, to the wisdom that I have earned and that's been gained through so many experiences that were so difficult, so sad, so uh, painful. Watching other people suffer is not easy, and I am so grateful for all of it. And I'm also so grateful that I'm at this point in my life that I get to feel so excited for the joy, for the art, for the, again, the shared moments with others in a way that is no longer caregiving in the ways that I have. I know that door has closed. I am listening to the energies. I will end with saying this lunar eclipse in Pisces is so much about something ending, a completion point, a door closing. Pisces wants us to surrender into the oneness and the trust that we are supported and guided by the unseen, unknown forces. We don't have to know. We don't have to try to figure it out or control it or go, hold on too tight. Think, overthink, think about it. Pisces lunar eclipse is saying something will be revealed to you in good time. You don't have to try to figure it out right now. Rest, take it easy, surrender to the energy. It is intense. Allow what needs to dissolve. Let it slip away. Say goodbye to something. It can be an identity that you've held, it can be a person, it can be a relationship, it can be work, it can be overthinking, overtaxing yourself, trying so hard, wanting everything to be in its right place at the right time. You know, the sun and Mercury are in Virgo, opposing this lunar eclipse full moon in Pisces. I'm going to stop there. Thank you so much if you have listened all the way through. I just want all of you to know how much I appreciate everything and every one of you, and for the support, the encouragement, cheering me on, being a friend, a family member, somebody that I cherish all of you so much for just the love and again, the friendship, the support, the encouragement, because I couldn't do any of this without every single one of you. And last but not least, thank you, Sally. This is absolutely dedicated to Sally. I love you. I miss you. I honor you. I got to have a lot of Sally's paintbrushes. She was an incredible artist, among many other things. And I received a lot of her paints that were unopened that she's had for probably many, many years, and beautiful paintbrushes. And Sally, I am going to be creating as much as I can for the rest of my life and using your paintbrushes that you created beautiful art pieces with is the highest honor. So on that note, my friends, stay safe out there. Be well. Don't hold on too tight. Allow yourself to get in that river and flow with it. I love you all. Bye for now.